The Woolworth sit-in in Jackson was May 28th, 1963, an excellent date for us to go and demonstrate. We'd had our finals. There was a diversionary demonstration down the street, a picket line, to give the sit-in students, all from Mississippi, a chance to go and sit at the lunch counter. And they did, and we thought they'd be arrested pretty quickly, but they weren't. The picket line, which we thought would last, was arrested immediately. Well, I was what they call a spotter, and so was Lois Chafee, a white member of the staff at Tougaloo. We were just sort of on the street watching what happened with some money to call Medgar Evers' office and let him know. And so we called and said they'd been arrested. And, okay, now what are we going to do? Well, we hadn't seen any squad cars or paddy wagons going down to Woolworth, just a block or so down the street, so we decided we'd go check it out. And basically all hell broke loose. Memphis Norman was pulled from his stool and stomped till he was bleeding out of every opening in his head. And then I think he was actually unconscious at one point. So he and the former policeman who was stomping him were arrested by an undercover cop in the store and hauled off. I think Memphis actually made it to the hospital before he was booked. And I was there in the crowd, and so I ended up taking Memphis's seat between the two girls. And then Annie Moody and I were pulled off our stools and drugged basically to the entrance of the store, at which point the guy who was pulling me out was arrested. And so Annie and I went back in, and we couldn't get back to Perlina, but we got to wherever we could at the counter and sat there. And then John Salter and a black activist came into the store and joined the sets of two girls. So that went on a good long while. Sitting there, it was exam week at the local high school. So the students there, I guess, could leave campus to, go up to Capitol Street and get lunch since it was exam week. Our mistake, not checking out what else was happening. This was, before McDonald's and all these fast food places, and they were angry. And apparently some of the big-time segregationist adults, probably the Sovereignty Commission or things, went down to the high school and was encouraging the guys to come up to see what's happening at Woolworth's. So I got quite a mob. And, of course, these being high school students, one person would do something to us, call us a name, and then another student would try to outdo them with a worse name or dump something on us, and somebody would find something else to dump on us. And we got pretty well decorated with all the condiments that were out there. To me, the big story of that day is the photographer, Fred Blackwell. He was the same age as the demonstrators. He was 22. He had gone to the same high school as the kids in the mob. There's one kid with a cigarette, lived 3 doors down the street from Fred. I'd like to say that probably Fred dated the other guys' older sisters and hung out with their older brothers, but he knew a lot of them. So, of course, his sympathies were with his buddies. But he ended up standing on the lunch counter, taking pictures of us for 3 hours. And that was dangerous. The TV cameraman, had already been knocked to the floor and had his camera broken when he was filming Memphis. And often in demonstrations, the press, particularly the cameramen, were attacked even before the demonstrators because they were getting the goods on them. And if stuff starts flying, the press is in as much danger as the demonstrators, and stuff was flying. Well, Fred was up there for 3 hours, and by the time things were over, his sympathies had shifted to the nonviolent demonstrators, and I say that shows the power of nonviolence. Then a kid at a rival white high school saw pictures in the paper that evening, and his heart was changed. He came to support the demonstrators. He was just your, typical segregationist high school student. And I found that out over 50 years later when I met him. That's the power of the press. So right in that one picture, it's not important because the back of my head is the central point. It's important because it encapsulates the power of Gandhian nonviolence and the power of the press. And that picture went worldwide. It was colorized in the Paris Match, which was a big-time paper. It made international news. And I think it's the most widely used picture of any of the sit-ins.